So, once upon a time when we were all kids and things were so simple, all we had to do was play, take a nap, and eat. That's when we learned how to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. Now, of course, when you are dealing with more situations, counting it is not as simple. So, for example, especially for the three of you that are here, one of the questions that might have went through your head was, what am I going to wear? So you got a whole bunch of shirts, you got a whole bunch of pants, you got a whole bunch of shoes. Figure out what combination of the outfit you're going to wear. They're shaking their heads. Is that what I'm going to wear? It's already laid out. That's it the night before. That makes you organized, which is definitely not me. I opened up my closet and said, okay, I have dress shirts, I have all these pairs of pants, pick something and hope that it matches. But when it comes to math, there are 3 specific ways that we count things up to achieve a particular situation or to achieve a particular task. So we're going to start with what's known as fundamental counting. Fundamental way to count things up. So if you have 2 events or 3 events, and you want to figure out how many total ways can you get something, the only thing you have to do is multiply how many things you have. Multiply how many things you have, and that's how many ways you can do it. Multiply how many things you have, that's how many ways you can do it. So, let's use the basic example of picking an outfit. You are trying to create a single outfit from 5 different shirts and 12 different pairs of pants. 5 different shirts, 12 different pairs of pants. You want to know how many outfits you can make from that. So, the number of outfits that we could make, you have 5 different shirts times the 12 different pants that you have. 60 outfits. All you have to do is take 2 numbers and multiply them together. Anyone expecting that to be harder than what it was? No, basic count. You need a shirt, you need a pair of pants. You need one of each. 5 possibilities for shirts, 12 possibilities for pants, multiply them together, 60 outfits. Any questions? Example 1. Fundamental counting is also known as basic counting. So again, go here, stop me if I'm either A, going too fast, or B, something doesn't click. I don't care if you ask me a question. I'm where I get paid today. All right, so example 2. You're at a restaurant. You have a choice of 1 appetizer from 8 options, 1 entree from 14 options, and 1 dessert from 6 options. How many different meals could you have at this restaurant? So if I'm going to the Cheesecake Factory, that means I'm going to have the fried mozzarella sticks with the Louisiana crunch pasta, finish that off with an Oreo dream cake, a cheesecake, and I'm good to go. Sorry, that's me being fat. But how many different meals could you have at this restaurant? So your number of meals is your appetizers times your entrees times your desserts. So your appetizers you have 8 different options. Your entrees, you have 14 different options. Your desserts, you have 6 different options. So how many total meals could you make? Like the calculator do its work. So, how many options do I have? Say that again? 672. 672. So there are 672 possible meals that you can have. There's 672 possible ways for you to pick something to eat for dinner that day. Just don't be that person that's going to sit and think about all 672 things. The waiter doesn't have that kind of time, and probably the person that you're having dinner with doesn't have that kind of time. Well, maybe you do. Who knows? Any questions, examples 1 and 2? Again, basic counting is taking the number of options you have and simply multiplying. So, now let's make the problem add a little wrinkle to it. You need to create a new PIN for your ATM card. Anyone here have an ATM card? Will you probably get one next year? So you have an ATM, you need a new PIN for your ATM card. The PIN must have 4 digits, numbers. How many possible ways can you create the PIN if you can repeat any number? What about if you cannot repeat any numbers? So this is a 2-part problem. One part is if you can repeat it. The second part is if you can't repeat it. So, one thing to keep in mind here, digits. So a digit is just a single number. So all of the digits that exist, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are digits. 10 is not a digit. Why? Because it's 2 numbers put together. 10 is a 1 and a 0 put together. So that's not a digit. So you have a PIN. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. So they asked you this problem 2 different ways. So they asked you this problem 2 different ways, so that means we're going to be solving it 2 different ways. So, let's start with repeating. So for that first number, so the first number I have 10 different options to choose from. So that's 10. 10 choices. So if I can repeat it, does that mean I can use the same number? Yes. So that means I still have 10 options. The third number, since I'm allowed to repeat, I still have 10 options. The fourth number, I can repeat, so I still have 10 options. So the first 10 represents the first number, second one represents the second number, third number, fourth number. Any questions so far? Everybody, you good? Well, you good? Are you straight? Anyone at home with any questions before we continue? Sterling and Mariah, I think you all just came in. Make sure you pull down the notes page from Google Classroom We're on example number 3. So, we've got our 4 possibilities. Now we just multiply them together. So that should be 1 with 4 zeros behind it. So you have 10,000 possible PIN numbers. 10,000 possible PIN numbers if you can repeat. If you are allowed to repeat the numbers, then you have 10,000 possibilities. You have 10,000 possibilities if you can repeat. What about if you can't repeat? What if nothing can be repeated? That means if you use one number, you can't use it again. If you use a number, you can't use it again. You use a number, you can't use it again. So, first number. So for the first number, you've got all 10 choices available to you. Got all 10 choices available to you. So let's say that my first number was a 0. So I've used 0, that means I can't use it again. If I'm not repeating, then I can't use it again. So how many numbers do I have left? I have 9 numbers left. That means my second number, I have 9 possibilities. So I cross off the 4. Since I can't repeat the 0 and I can't repeat the 4, how many numbers do I have left over? How many possible numbers could I use? 8. I'll cross off the 1. So I can't use the 0 anymore. I can't use the 1 anymore. I can't use the 4 anymore. How many numbers do I have left? Now I have 7 numbers. Cross off the 2. So what I just used, the 4 numbers I use are the 4 numbers of my birthday. 0, 4, 1, 2. I was born April 12th. Please do not use your birthday as a PIN number, ever. Never use your PIN number. You never use your birthday as a PIN number. Because if anyone gets a hold of your debit card, that's most likely the first thing you're going to use. And if they're right, well, there goes all your money. So 10 times 9 times 8 times 7, let the calculator do a little work. So, what do we get? So, we multiply those 4, what do we get? 5,040. Yeah. Well, don't be afraid to use that calculator, that's why I cleaned it up for you. So those are your 2 names. Any questions? Example 3. All right, example 4. You have 168 ways to make a sandwich consisting of 1 meat, 1 vegetable, and 1 cheese. There are 4 types of meat and 6 kinds of vegetables. How many types of cheese does this restaurant carry? So, let me tell you the wrong way that someone will interpret this problem. Some people will do example 4 the way that you just did 1, 2, and 3. So they're going to take 168 times 4 times 6. Break out the calculator. 168 times 4 times 6. Get 4032. Box that up and think that they're good to go. No. Wrong. That's not what that problem was. This is a problem which you're working backwards. They're telling you how many ways you can make the sandwich. They're telling you how many ways you can make the sandwich. Consisting of 1 meat, 1 vegetable, 1 cheese. So that means if you take the meat times the vegetable times the cheese, you will get 168. Meat, vegetable, cheese. Meat times vegetable times cheese equals 168. So that's your total. You know how many types of meat you have. You know how many types of vegetables you have. You don't know how many types of cheese you have. Any questions on how we're approaching this problem before we solve it? Will, you good back there? You sure? You copy this down? Okay. You copy it down now. Any questions at home before we continue? Again, those of you who are at home, closed mouth don't get fed. You gotta ask questions. So, what can I do with this 4 and that 6? Oh, so 4 times 6, 24. So 24 times x equals 168. Divide those by 24, we'll know how many cheeses we have. How many cheeses do we have? 7 cheese. 7 kinds of cheese. 7 kinds of cheese. We'll all example one and 6, if that's okay. Number which one? All right, go ahead.
So it doesn't matter which digits you use there. You just need to have both sets. It's still going to be like 9 and 8.
Correct. So the 10, the 9, the 8, and the 7 is how many numbers you have available to you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to use 9, or you're going to use 8, or you're going to use 7. That's just how many you have available. You can make whatever pig you want. So, excellent question there. Any other questions before we move on to the next type of counting? So the next 2 types of counting, those of you with calculators, it will be easier with those of you with calculators than for those of you who do not. I'm going to show it both ways, but those of you with a calculator will have a very decided advantage. Tyler, is your calculator somewhere in this one? Yeah, okay. Good. It will be good. All right. So there are 2 other types of ways to count. The first page was all just basic fundamental counting. There are 2 other types of counting that gets more specific. When you're picking an outfit, that's not all that specific. Pick a shirt, pick a pair of pants, that's an outfit. Permutation. So a permutation is when you are selecting items, but the order matters. The order that you do it matters. The order that you choose it matters. So, for example, if 3 people are running a race, that means one person's going to finish first, one person's going to finish second, one person's going to finish third. The person who finishes first can't finish second because they already finished first. The person that finishes second can't finish third because they already finished second. Since there's only 3 people, whoever's third, the last person has to be third. They don't have a choice. So permutation is when the order is important. Order matters. So to solve it, we use a formula. So you have n pick p. So this is known as n pick r. So n is the number of values you have. What do you have to choose from? The r is what do you want. So n is how many you have. N is how many you have. R is how many you want. So n is how many you have. R is how many you want. So to solve it out, you have the formula n factorial. N factorial divided by n minus r factorial. So I'm going to explain to you what factorial means in a second. It's a very easy thing to calculate. Very easy thing to calculate. So n with the explanation part behind it means factorial. That means factorial. That's multiplication of every number from n all the way down to 1. So, for example, 5 factorial means 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. What factorial means? That's all that it means. And we can work that out because we know how to multiply. 5 times 4 is 20, times 3 is 60, times 2 is 120, times 1, 120. That's what factorial means. That's what factorial means. Now, for those of you with a graphing calculator, let me show you where factorial is in the calculator. So we'll do it first with the graphing, and then Tyler will do it with yours next. So, in a graphing calculator, in a graphing calculator, you first type in the number that you want. So, here you might want to see this part. So, type in the number that you want. Go to where it says math. Scroll over to where it says PROB. Notice that the 4th button down is an exclamation point. By factorial, press enter, you should get 120. That's how you do factorial in the calculator. So Tyler, in your case, you're going to press the number 5. Go to PRB, which should be in that 2nd row next to the word log. Scroll over to the 3rd thing, which should be an exclamation point. Hit enter, and hit enter again. You should get it. Got it? All right. So that's how we do it in our calculators. If you don't have a calculator, then there's the way you get to do it. So let's do an example using the formula, and then we'll do an example of a word problem that goes with this. So 8 pick 3. So 8 pick 3. So 8 P 3 means that 8 is the n value, 3 is the r value. It always goes in that order, so you don't have to worry about the order changing. N always goes first, R always goes second. So now we're going to put it in the formula. So that's 8 factorial over 8 minus 3 factorial. So we're going to make this a little bit easier on ourselves. 8 minus 3 is 5. We have 8 factorial over 5 factorial. Any questions before we solve it out? So I'm going to show this the long way for those of you who do not have a calculator. Because unfortunately, you have the long way to work with. Those of you with the calculator, I'll show you the short way in a second. So 8 factorial divided by 5 factorial. So 8 factorial is 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So again, if you have a calculator, you do not have to do it this long way. So I'm going to show you the short way. So once you write it out, anything that matches, you can cancel out. So 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. They all drop out. So that gives you 8 times 7 times 6. And then you multiply that out and you're done. 336. Done. So that's the long way. Any questions before we do it the short way using the calculator? Here? So factorial, just like this problem. You start from the number they gave you, and you go all the way down to 1. So if you started with 8, you got to start with 8 and go all the way down to 1. But remember, this is the long way for those people who don't have calculators. If you have a calculator, let's pick out my highlighter real quick. If you have a calculator, and you're showing this, this, and this, and then you're going to let the calculator do the rest of the work. We're going to let the calculator do the rest of the work. So let's go ahead with our calculator. So of course, some of yours will be different because your buttons are a little bit different. But, okay, 8 math, go to probability, factorial, divided by 5, math, factorial. Same answer. Now, for those of you with a graphing calculator, you can make this a little bit easier too. So remember, it was 8P3. It was 8P3. Press the 8. Go to math. That second button down is permutation. press it, type in the 3, there's your answer. For those of you with a graphing or scientific calculator, you have an ultimate cheat code. You have an ultimate cheat code. All you have to do is worry about setting up the problem. All you have to do is worry about setting up the problem. I think yours works the same way. You figured it out? Yeah. Okay. So, any questions before we do the word problem example? So, those of you with a graphing calculator or a scientific calculator, you have a decided advantage. You have very much a decided advantage. All right, example 6. How many ways can a company hire a manager and assistant manager from a group of 10 people? So 10 people are trying to get hired for manager and assistant manager. So that means if I'm hired as the manager, I can't be the assistant manager. If I'm hired as assistant manager, I can't be manager. I have 10 people. So that means when I set up my problem, remember, M is how many people do I have? I have 10 people, but how many spots do I have? 2. I only have 2 spots. So that's 10. How many I have? Okay. 2. How many I want? 10 pick 2. Any questions at home? Any questions in here? And always ask yourself, if I can't figure that out by myself, knowing I'm going to have to when I do my homework, my quiz, test, final, then I need to ask. If I can't figure it out by myself, then I need to make sure I ask. 10 pick 2. So now we do the work. We have 10 factorial divided by 10 minus 2 factorial. So again, I'm using the same formula for the permutation, I just didn't write it. So those of you with the scientific or the graphing calculators, I expect you to do it the short way. The only thing you have to do is set up the problem. Once you have this set up, then I expect you to do it the short way. Let the calculator do what you're paying it to do. Now, for those of you who do not have a graphing calculator, this is how the problem would look. 10 factorial is 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. 8 factorial, 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So you're going to get a lot of stuff to drop out. You're going to get a lot of stuff to drop out. 10 times 9. Maybe. Get a lot of stuff to drop out. So if you did it the short way, you should have gotten 90. You should have gotten 90 as well. You get 90. You get 90. Got to get 90. So we're all good in here. Any questions at home? Let's do the last type, which is a combination. So a combination is the opposite of a permutation. The order doesn't matter. You just need to pick the people. You just need to choose some people up, and let's go. So combination, the formula is a little bit more involved. little bit more involved. So N is still the number of people you have, R is still the number of people you want. You just add another piece to the formula. We add another piece to the formula. So let's work this problem out. Again, I'll first start it off the long way, and then show it the short way for those of you who have the calculator to do it. So 10C5. So that means N choose R. P means pick. C means choose. So let's use our formula. N minus R factorial, and then R factorial. So the N is going to get used twice, the R is going to get used twice. No big deal. 10 factorial divided by 10 minus 5 factorial, 5 factorial. Okay, anything, set it up. Anything, set it up. And now that it's set up, let's actually do some work. So, 10 minus 5, 5, right? Five factorial, 5 factorial. So again, showing it the long way for those people who don't have graphing calculator. So 10 factorial, 5 factorial, 5 factorial. Notice that you have two things at the bottom. So that means you got to write each of them out. 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. The other 5 factorial, same thing. So we're going to get some stuff to cancel out. 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. All those dropped out. So everything else that didn't drop out, we have to solve. So 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 is 30,240 divided by 120, which is 252. Again, that's the long way. That's the long way. Yeah. You don't have a graphing calculator, you don't have a scientific calculator, then that's the way you have to do it. Now, for those of you who have the technology. Remember, the problem was 10C5. 10C5. Type in your 10. Go to math. Go over to where it says probability. Now you're going to pick the third one. Should be the second one. Type your 5. Enter. Pick the number. So again, you have a graphing calculator, scientific calculator, you are at a decided advantage. You are at a decided advantage. Again, those of you who don't have a calculator, at minimum, go to the store and get a blue, green, pink, whatever it is, scientific calculator. Scientific calculator does everything a graph calculator does except for graph. So, any questions before we do our last example? Highly beneficial. Review straight. All right, so example A. How many ways can a company hire 2 people from a group of 10 people? So, notice the difference between problem 6 and problem 8. Problem 6 wants to hire a manager and an assistant manager. Problem 8, hire 2 people. What's the difference between the 2 problems? Well, the second problem, I mean, it gives you 2 numbers, a 10 and a 2. But are they telling you what you're going to be doing? Problem 6 is. So the more specific it is, that means it's important how you pick it. The more specific the problem is, that makes it a permutation. So you got to follow a permutation. If it's vague, or if it's just in general, that's a combination. So the more specific it is, if it's more specific, it's a permutation. If it's vague, or if it's general, then it's a combination. That make sense? So let's work this problem. How many ways can a company hire 2 people from a group of 10? I have 10. I need to pick 2 of them to hire. Choose 2 of them to hire. So that's 10, choose 2. 10, choose 2. Choose 2. Now, for those of you with the calculator, I'll show you what the answer should be. For those of you who would have to do it the long way, here's how you would do it the long way. 10 is the n value, r is the 2 value. Remember, that order never changes. The order never changes. So that's 10 factorial over 10 minus 2 factorial. 2 factorial. So I'm still using the same formula. Still using the same formula. So that's 10 factorial over 8 factorial, 2 factorial. So let's write it all out. 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6, all the way down to 1. 8 factorial is 8 times 7 times 6 times 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2 factorial is 2 times 1. So you're going to get a lot of stuff to drop out. So 10 times 9 is 90. 2 times 1 is 2. 90 divided by 2 is 25. So, again, that's the long way to do it. Do I want you to do it the wrong way? No, but if you don't have a calculator, you don't have a choice. If you have a calculator, you got a choice. You don't have a calculator, you have a choice. This was the best $100 I spent 20 years ago when I got this calculator. I've been out of high school for 20 years. I've had this calculator that long. All I gotta do is change batteries. Dollar store batteries that I use. So, any questions on any of the 3 counting principles? Because that's it. We're finished. That's how you count stuff up. That's how you count stuff up.